Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 91 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit. What's up out there? If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, often comedians and other artists about their lives and careers. The conversation is casual, but I also ask all my guests to highlight someone they love, someone who they admire, someone who influenced them, inspired them, or supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is at peoplewelovepodcast. And I'm on Instagram as well, at Adam Choit, my name, if you want to follow me too. And please remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated as well. So, today's guest is comedian Seth Lawrence. A Mormon man from Utah who came from a large family and now has one himself. He tells me all about his journey from aspiring lawyer to becoming both a dad and a comedian. And we cover a lot more, including how much he appreciates his super supportive wife, Lorien, who's been there all the way from Utah to Los Angeles. Let's just get started. Here's Seth Lawrence. All right, so it's good to see you today, Seth Lawrence. Thank you for joining me on the Zoom. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Adam. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, for sure. How are you holding up during this super fun 2020?
The super fun times. I've been pretty busy actually. I have 3 kids, so 2 of them are in online school stuff. So a lot of my day is juggling the 2 of them online. One of them, my oldest, she's 9 and pretty independent on the computer with her online school. My son, though, is in kindergarten. He really needs me about every 2 minutes. So I'm juggling him and our youngest, that's 2, throughout the day. It's kind of leapfrogging between the 2 of them. And then I get a little respite during lunchtime and nap time. So I try to exercise during that window and kind of get some logistic, businessy kind of stuff done on the stand-up side of the world. So it's been busy. Yeah, it's been busy.
Yeah, you can't waste any time. When was the last time you wasted time? I mean, everyone wastes time, but I feel like, I don't know.
I guess
I wouldn't let you, if I saw you wasting, be like, you can't be doing that right now. 9, 5, and 2.
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Is that what you said? 9, 5, and 2-year-old?
Yeah. My kids are 9, 5, and 2. Yeah.
But you get a chance. You do get a chance to a breather ever, waste time, so to speak.
I mean, yeah. The way I justify it, Adam, is there's no wasting of time. It's relaxation time, recharge time that I absolutely have to have, so I don't lose my mind. You know?
No, that makes sense. But why don't we get it? Yeah, go on.
But is it wasting time? Yeah, it's not doing anything truly productive.
But it's necessary, perhaps.
Right. I mean, that's
in order to be productive in the rest of your time.
Exactly. And that's the way I dealt with school too. It's like, no, I need to play this video game right now so I can focus later.
Is that what you told your parents?
Yeah. That's what I told myself. Told myself. Yeah.
Why not? Well, we can get into it. You can tell me about your life and where did you grow up and what are your sort of even earliest memories. That's kind of what I ask people, even before 5 years old, if they remember anything. Usually it's not something, usually it's not good. Sometimes it's sort of neutral or random.
Well, right. I mean, I think for most of us, the traumatic memories are the ones that stick early on. So I have 2. One's less traumatic than the other. The first real memory I have, and I don't know chronologically which of these 2 actually happened first. So I was born in California. I was actually born in Monterey Park, so not too far away from Los Angeles. And then we ended up living in Japan for about 2 years, on and off. My dad's first job was teaching English at a Japanese university. So we were over there for a bit.
And you remember that this was when you were how old? This is before you were 5 years old?
Yeah. So we moved back to Utah. I guess we moved from California to Japan, back to California, and then to Utah when I was 5.
Wow.
Or actually what happened was California, Japan, Utah, Japan, then Utah again. That's the way it worked.
And when you were back in Utah when you were 5.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
so all that moving before 5 years old.
Right. So I have a brief memory in California of pouring myself a bowl of, I think it was Raisin Bran cereal, and spilling it all over our shag carpet in some apartment or place we were living in California. Spilled it everywhere. That's memory number one. And I had to like try to clean it up myself. I don't know. I guess I was just home alone having a bowl of cereal. And the second one was in Japan for sure. I remember throwing sticks. I had a stick that I was throwing like a spear or a javelin. And in Japan, they have, the paper walls. So I was trying to get this spear to stick into the paper wall in this apartment we were living in. And my dad walked in on me doing this and was furious. So those are the two earliest memories I have of existence in this life.
But not really the moving at all? You don't remember like that? That doesn't...
No, I don't remember packing up or moving.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's interesting what I
feel like
remember.
it's more traumatic for adults than it is for kids, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Especially when you're that young, you don't even know what's going on. It's just your reality. You just do what you're told and kind of go where you're told and then dragged along. But what about when you got back to Utah when you were in kindergarten age or whatever? What jumps out at you from then?
I think I was in maybe kindergarten. My beginning in entertainment, I was in a play where we put on prehistoric times, and I was a brontosaurus that got eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So obviously I was devastated to find out later in life that brontosaurus didn't really exist as a dinosaur, apparently.
Wait, what?
Yeah, have you not heard this? Have you not heard that
I feel like I have, or maybe
it was like an incorrect composite of skeletons of other dinosaurs. So there was no super long neck. The Land Before Time series is decimated.
Nah, I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it. It's real for me.
Yeah.
I'm keeping it. And Pluto's a planet too.
Always will be forever.
Why do they try to take away my childhood?
I don't know, man.
With their facts.
I know. There's so many of these scientists out there trying to destroy what we loved. And there are TV shows that are rebooting what we loved, or maybe what we didn't love,
Yeah.
Why is there not a Growing Pains reboot? That's what I want to know. Why has that not come back?
There will be, I think.
I hope so.
Did you spend all of your childhood up through high school in Utah in one place, or did you move more? I'm just kind of figuring out what the hell I'm getting myself into here.
Right. Yeah. Who knew? Most of it was in Utah for sure. There was 1 year when I was in 5th grade that we went to Hawaii for a year. So my dad and mom actually now both teach at Brigham Young University. And at the time, Brigham Young University and Brigham Young University Hawaii did offered an exchange program. So if there was a professor at both of the universities that wanted to swap living situations and teaching, then they would arrange it, right? So obviously there was a huge waiting list on the Provo, Utah side to get to Hawaii.
Yeah, I was going to say
far fewer people gearing up to go to Provo. So we ended up finally getting actually the call. So we made it out to Laie, Hawaii, and it was one of the best years of my childhood. It was amazing. Loved it.
How old were you then?
11.
So 5, and so it was all in Utah and Provo in that area?
Yeah. Orem is really where I grew up, but they're essentially the same city.
Gotcha. And what were you like as a kid? What was more of your family like? Were you from a Mormon family?
Yeah. So my dad is what we call, born in the faith. He was a member of the church his entire life. My mom converted when she was in her early to mid 20s.
Yeah.
And then they met when they were both about 30, got married fairly quickly. And then I came along when my parents were about 31. So they wasted no time in starting their little family once they got married.
And you have siblings?
Yeah. So I have 2. I'm the oldest. I have 2 younger sisters and then 2 younger brothers. My younger brothers are actually both adopted. So
gotcha.
That's Yeah, we have a wonderful composite family. So I have 4 siblings.
Yeah, tell me about growing up in a big Mormon family and where you fit in as the
Yeah,
eldest brother, the eldest sibling.
right. I mean, I feel like big Mormon family. To me, there was a kid in my high school who had 13 siblings. So,
You got a small
5.
family.
Yeah, is we were on the smaller. No, we were probably average. An average Mormon family that seems astronomically large outside of the church. Yeah, it was fun. I feel like I got along with my siblings growing up fairly well. There was always, the typical sibling fights that happen. But yeah, I mean, nothing super. I don't know. I guess as a kid, you don't really know. And in Utah in particular, all of my friends were members of the church.
It's what you know. It's your reality.
Yeah, exactly. At least until high school. I had a couple friends in high school who either questioned the faith or were not part of the faith, but knew all about the faith. So, it's sort of like everyone around you is of the same general mentality. So you don't really know anything different, so nothing really stands out to me as far as, what to describe as far as my childhood goes. It all felt really normal to me, go to church on Sundays. I always thought everybody just went to church on Sundays. That I don't know. Yeah, it was about, I can't think of anything else. What are you hoping for? What are you hoping for out of it?
No, I was just going to ask, like, what kind of kid were you beyond that? Even what were you into? Were you watching things on TV in elementary school? Were you into music? Were you into sports? What made you maybe different from even some of the other kids?
I don't know what made me different. I always felt sort of like a nerd. I don't know. I loved baseball as a kid. I cheered for the Atlanta Braves. Loved Chipper Jones.
Because they were on TV.
They were on TV, man, and grew up watching the Jazz and Brigham Young University football. That was probably as close to church outside of church as you get in Provo, Utah. BYU football, man. Yeah, Utah Jazz. I actually just recently watched the Last Dance, that ESPN documentary.
Yeah, I saw it, of course.
Yeah, so that was the heyday of the Jazz. Stockton, Malone, Hornacek. I love Jeff Hornacek. So I was kind of into sports. I've not been as involved with watching or following sports as an adult as I was as a kid. Junior high, I guess, it's tough for everybody. For me, it was the really awkward stage of desperately wanting to be part of the cool crowd, but being a little too nerdy, too, I guess, self-conscious. I don't know what it was, but I never really felt like I fit in with the cool crowd, even though I really wanted to be in that group, So high school really embraced kind of the nerdy side of myself, found some good friends, and kind of made a home in the active, sporty nerd crowd, I guess, is really where I felt like I fit in the most.
Active, sporty nerd crowd. Yeah, I was going to ask what makes you, because you did come back to nerdiness a couple of times. What makes you a nerd? Doesn't because you like Chipper Jones? I'm a Mets fan. I don't like Chipper Jones.
Is that the sign of a nerd? Chipper Jones fan?
No, I don't know. I'm not. I was reaching, but what? What's
I guess
a sporty
more
nerd, and what made you nerdy throughout growing up?
Yeah, probably more just a self-identification of things. I mean, I always felt, I guess oscillated between glasses and contacts growing up. So always felt a little bit stereotypically nerd because of the glasses.
Were you smart?
I did well in school,
That doesn't help.
Right. I guess for the nerd stuff, or it does help for the nerd stuff, depending on
it's depending on what
your
if you
outlook.
want, what your goals are.
Yeah, so I felt like I fit more with the kids that were studying every night, right? Like I identified with that. I wasn't doing parties every weekend, like all the cool kids were, So at least that's what I thought. I don't know if that's actually true because I wasn't one of them.
One day we'll find out.
Yeah, probably just more self-identification as a nerd than anything else.
I hear you. I feel more sometimes like I'm more like a dork or can be dorky than a nerd. Like,
okay.
to be a nerd, you have to be smart or be an expert at something that most people don't really give a fuck about. I
Right.
think
Sure.
I don't
Sure.
fit. I don't think I really fit into that.
Yeah.
I have a broad knowledge of things people are mildly interested in.
So for you, is dork more quirky, or what do you mean by dork?
I would say so. It's maybe more
Yeah.
personality.
Quirky, silly.
Yeah, maybe.
Sure. Sure. Maybe not as focused. Nerds are very focused on
Yeah.
one or two things. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we don't need to get into all that. Well, what about
Yeah.
extracurriculars in high school? Like, we'll get into like what you thought you were going to be doing, or you can tell me
Sure.
more about like comedy and stuff if that was an interest, when that becomes an interest. But what
Right.
about like, were you, in band or foreign
Oh yeah,
language
man.
club and all the
Played
clubs?
played the alto saxophone in band. Played I really like band actually. A lot of my friends were in band. So yeah, played alto sax. So I was in band, I was in jazz band. So that was always fun. And let's see, and then tennis. I did tennis. I was on the tennis team, JV, varsity. And I tried out for one play while I was in high school. Tried out for one play, a smaller production. I did not get the part, but some friends of mine came up to me afterward, and they both were like, "Oh, Seth, you would have been so good in that part. It was just all political. Don't worry about it. It was all political. Senior year, the director has to give certain parts away, and you should have tried out earlier. You should have tried out in sophomore, junior year, and then you would have gotten the part." But so always interested.
I mean, you're a performer now.
I am a performer now.
You have kind of a sarcastic expression on your face, but I'm like, nah. I think he means what he's saying, because you are a performer now, and looking back, you felt you had the confidence and the talent, and just like the timing and circumstances.
Yeah.
Is what didn't work out, and I believe you, man.
Oh, good. That's what I've sort of told myself based on their comments, because they were both thespians. So I felt like they had, the lay of the land. They knew what was going on, and I think they were speaking truth.
It's like Jordan getting cut from his JV team to give another Last Dance.
Right. Another
reference.
tie-in. Beautiful. I love the way you did that. And anytime I can be compared to Jordan, I'll take it.
Yeah. What were you best at? Alto saxophone. Well, you could answer that without a choice. I'm going to say alto saxophone, tennis,
right. Making out with girls. No, I was probably the best at tennis.
Yeah.
Of all of those things, I was probably the best at tennis.
Did you ever think you were going to go
no,
far?
I wasn't that good. No, I wasn't that good. And that probably gives you an idea of how good I was at all the other stuff.
Yeah.
No, I was not that good at tennis. I never really thought I would go pro. I guess, it's always sort of a dream, right? That'd be awesome if I did, but it was never anything that I even dreamt about pursuing, Yeah, there were some other kids on the tennis team that were much better than I was. And, they were doing like the private club stuff and touring and doing some sort of amateur tournaments and stuff. And they were fantastic. So anytime I took a game or two off them, I felt pretty good about myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
You would kick my ass. How I don't really play or play at all. How fast was your serve?
I never clocked it. So I don't know, but I'd like to think in the heyday of senior year, it was probably about, 98 maybe.
Right. That sounds pretty damn impressive to me.
I don't know. I think like
90 miles an hour.
Right. I think
90,
Andy
almost
Roddick
100.
hits it somewhere over 100, 114, 120, somewhere around there, maybe 130. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. I don't know how hard I hit, but it always felt, it always felt good. It always felt good when I'd really connect with it the way I wanted to.
For sure. What about music or movies or comedy or TV shows? What about like cultural things? Were you into that stuff, growing up and into high school?
Yeah. So much about that is, identity, right? And when you're growing up, you kind of create your identity based on what you like. So yeah, absolutely. I was into, I love Seinfeld, even though it was forbidden at my house growing up.
Why is that? I could guess.
My dad just felt like it came more from my dad. and he felt a lot of the topic was just, inappropriate for high school.
It's a lot of euphemisms
Yeah.
about adult topics when you
Yeah,
do break it
absolutely.
down.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a kid, I don't think I even really registered. I knew my dad's reasoning because he explained it. He's just like, well, they're joking about sleeping around, and that's not okay. So this show's basically, it's about terrible people, and you shouldn't watch it. And
Dude,
like,
your
yeah, but
dad
that's what it
is
is.
awesome. Your dad is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. He was
Fucking
very good, very involved in our lives. So we'd still sneak
values.
Seinfeld episodes every once in a while at home. And if I was at a friend's house, I had some friends that loved Seinfeld. So we would kind of hang out, watch Seinfeld, play ping pong.
Dude, I would
Yeah.
hang out with your friend. This is what I would be doing.
Yeah, it was great.
I was well, come to think of it, I was pretty much doing the same thing in my childhood and adolescence, whatever.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and there's so many things about, I guess, being an adolescent in the 90s that everybody watched Seinfeld. I felt like sort of Seinfeld or Friends were the two camps you fell in.
Right.
I never really felt, I didn't connect with Friends. I connected with Seinfeld though.
Right. Same.
So that was probably my first intro to stand-up even being a thing. But it was never really in the cards as far as growing up. I always felt like I was going to do law. I was going to be a lawyer. My parents were very practically minded, and coming from a more religious, more conservative household, the man should provide, and therefore you need a stable career, and entertainment is not a stable career. So you need to find something that you're going to find mentally challenging, that you'll enjoy doing. And for me, that was the law. I always felt I think I had a romanticized interest in legal work, To Kill a Mockingbird and A Few Good Men, all that really shaped what I thought being a lawyer was going to be. And that, some of that goes away and it's kind of crystallized into what it really is to be a lawyer as you grow up and talk to people about it. But I always liked that idea. So I always felt like, and had a pretty specific directed goal to be a lawyer growing up. But yeah, I also love, as far as music goes, man, I got into, Beatles was probably my first love, and that's my dad's absolute favorite band. So Beatles was an easy go-to in my house. A lot of classic rock, Queen, love Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, really got into Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd in high school. And then, people like the Killers come out, and you have to like the Killers as a Mormon, kind of. But I'm trying to think about, man, I got into like grunge phase a little bit with Nirvana, but didn't really, stayed pretty mainstream as far as the grunge movement went. So not too much beyond Nirvana. Some classic, I guess, Black Eyed Peas. How can you not like the Black Eyed Peas in the 90s as a white kid? Huh? Come on. Early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask more about the law stuff, because it sounds like you always knew you were going to be a lawyer, and that's kind of what you planned for junior and senior year of high school to work towards going towards is it undergrad and then law school? Is that what the process is? I forget how education works these days.
Yeah, right. So you go to university, and then you got to take the LSAT, and depending on your GPA and LSAT score, that dictates kind of the level of law school you can get into.
Yeah, a lot of different people come from different, I guess, undergrads. Whatever they study in undergrad can still go to law school. Still do go to law school. Where do most of the people in law school come from undergrad? Well, you might not know the answer to that off the top of your head, but even in your experience, most
of them are from humanities, right? So in English or some other language arts degree. Typically it was English though. That was my undergrad. It's like, I think 70-80% English majors.
Wow. Where did you go to college?
So I went to Brigham Young University in Provo for college, and then to UNC Chapel Hill for law school.
And so it just continued. Nothing changed that you wouldn't want to go to continue on the law path. How do you know that? obviously you had the thought of like, oh, I need to make a living, this and that, like going through your mind. But how did you know you were going to be able to like do this? Like, did you ever have like an internship or spend time at a law office or like you read a lot of legal stuff? You were interested in like, did you show interest in the law stuff? Or was it, you were smart enough to get there and
Sure.
just take the steps, but were you like actually interested in the content of the the legal world?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat, right? As far as, I guess,
You just want to say I object. You just want to
right,
yell,
all
I
the time.
object.
Right, and get the Matlock moment,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I always thought lawyers just operated in a courtroom because that's really all you ever see, portrayed in media, which is most of my exposure, right, growing up. But once I was in high school and talking to adults in my congregation, because that's where a lot of adults are that I interacted with, found out, oh, there are quite a few lawyers who do, they work with a business where they're writing up contracts and kind of figuring out corporate governance issues and dealing with, or you have people that work in employment law and they're dealing with sort of very personal problems as it relates to business. So I talked to a lot of them, kind of figured out what they did a little bit. And read, articles about what it was like to go to law school. I think, for me, the way I've operated is I see something that I like and I say, that's what I want to do. And then I just do it. It's not much of a, well, am I going to like it? Or it's more, I'm going to do it and then we'll see. And if I don't like it, then we'll bow out. And if I do like it, then great. I made the right decision, I guess. We'll just keep going forward.
Makes sense.
So that's kind of the way, that's kind of the way it went for law school. I just decided lawyers are respected in society. They do important, good things. I feel like I could do that and would be good at that. So let's go for it.
Do you go into law school with like a specific type of law that you plan to study? Is that how what the process is?
I mean, I think, as I approach that point in my life, you have, I don't know, law school's tough for a lot of different reasons. I mean, the biggest reason is I got into law school in 2011. So a lot of people who had left, forced out of their jobs because of the crisis in 2008, a lot of people ended up, in LA rebranding themselves, right, is the term, kind of starting over. And law school is a very open graduate program. For like medical school, you have to do something science related. For law school, it can be anything. As long as you have a good GPA and a good LSAT score, you can go to a good law school and then you can be a lawyer, right? Assuming you pass the bar. So it was really competitive. I think my year, 2011, was one of the most competitive years to get into law school. So you have this idea and this, practice, and you're used to being a good student. I did really well as an undergrad and just felt like, I can handle school. That's no big deal. And then law school, you get there and you realize, oh, I'm with a bunch of other kids that also are really good at school. And you're not just graded on how good was your work. You're graded on how good was your work compared to Hillary or compared to Ted, And that's a very different grading system than I had been used to coming out of the humanities. So you have this idealized version of here's what happens when you go to law school. I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to write for the law review. That's real prestigious and helps you get internships at law firms and, sort of sets your path for greatness, right? You have this idealized path, right? Of here's what happens. Then you get to big law. You make it into a big law firm. You make 6 figures and you work really hard and you're you're working hard, but you're rich. That's kind of the idealized law school path. And then for me, at least, I realized, oh, I'm not quite as smart or as dedicated as everybody else or as some of the other people here. And you also find out, well, big law is great if you want to do certain things, but you work 60 to 80 hours a week. You're not seeing your family. And is that worth it? Is that worth it to you? So a lot of things, at least for me, came into a different perspective as I went through law school, as far as what kind of lawyer I wanted to be. Plus, my wife and I both were going through graduate programs at the same time. And it's really, because of her that I even got into the law school I got into, because even though my numbers were on track to get accepted, UNC is a state school. So they look through their state applicants first, and then they take the cream of the crop of out-of-state applicants. And I wasn't quite cream of the crop on the out-of-state applicants. So I don't know if I would have gotten in, but she'd been accepted to her program. And basically, they were like, well, it's a package deal. We have to take both or neither. So let's pull some strings to the law school side and get this deadbeat in so we can get her. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, she and I had a lot of talks starting and going through that was like, her program was 6 years, mine was 3. So it was going to be kind of, let's figure out what happens after 6, but all the law firms in I think this is pretty typical. Most law firms want to know you're going to be there for the long haul. So it made finding a job after graduating, passing the bar, it made that a little bit challenging, but things ended up working out until she graduated and then accepted a job at USC. And then we moved, so then it was a whole other reevaluation of, do I want to study for the bar in California and pay to do that? Or since I had been interested in comedy, do we want to pivot, be the stay-at-home dad and do comedy at night? So, yeah, so that's kind of what ended up happening,
How long were you married when you went to law school, when you went to UNC?
So my wife and I got married during our senior year at Brigham Young University. So we'd been married about a year by the time I started law school. And
you didn't have any kids at that point.
Right. We had one on the way.
One on the way. Okay.
So yeah, our oldest was born during our first year. Both of us, starting graduate school. Yeah, she came. Our oldest came in the first year of our graduate programs.
Gotcha.
So we decided. Some people say wait. Some people say do it before. We decided why not? Just do it all. Just do it all at the same time.
You do. You guys got to do you. What did you say? Say your wife studied and does when studied at UNC and then got a job. You said at USC in California.
Yeah. So she did her doctorate in accounting at UNC Chapel Hill. So she took a job at USC teaching and doing research with the business school at USC. So that's what she's doing now.
Cool. So you ended up back in California, and what year was that?
So we came back to California in 2017.
Okay, so not that long ago, right. And that's kind of when you transitioned into the full-time dad thing and focusing more on comedy. Tell me more about when did comedy sort of become an itch?
Man, so comedy really for me became a hobby after my mission. So as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you're encouraged as a young man to go on a mission, which is 2 years where you're proselyting, teaching the gospel, and doing service in another area of the world, right? Sometimes it's within the U.S., sometimes it's outside of the U.S. So I went to Quebec, Canada, Eastern Canada, the French-speaking Quebecois. So that's where I was. And I met while I was, serving my mission, I met another missionary who had done a lot of improv with a club at BYU, and he and I got along great and had a lot of fun together. And so he suggested to me, "Hey, you should look into doing improv. You'd be fantastic." So after my mission, I tried out at the improv club and went there all summer at BYU. And they told us, when we started, they said, "Hey, if you stick with this club, all summer, we're going to do kind of a new person show. At the end of the summer, we'll put on a show, and all of you new people who stay, you'll be put on the show. It'll be very fun, and it'll be great." So a friend of mine from high school, and I did this club together all summer. And then the summer show came around, and they were like, "Hey, we actually ended up calling in some ringers, some people who were in the club last year who are now back in town, and they're going to do the show. So thank you all so much for being here."
That sucks.
And yeah, so he and I were like, "Okay, this is unreal." And my friend, actually didn't even go to BYU. He went to Utah Valley University, UVU. BYU's in Provo, and a church school. UVU is a state school in Orem. So he ended up going back to UVU when the semester started and started up his, an improv club at UVU because there wasn't one there. So I joined him, and he and I sort of taught and ran this UVU club based on what we'd learned at BYU and what we'd kind of looked up online as far as, games and techniques and things, and put on a couple of shows. It got actually pretty popular. We got a lot of people coming in. And one of the guys who came in after our first show did stuff, semi-professionally with Comedy Sports in Provo. And so that's how we got connected. That's how at least I got connected with Comedy Sports. So I ended up doing Comedy Sports for about a year, a little bit before, I met who would become my wife, and then after. So last year at BYU, I was doing improv at Comedy Sports in Provo and absolutely loved it. It was great. Good.
What is Comedy Sports troupe. Exactly?
So it is a short form improv club where they split the group into kind of two teams. So every show has two teams of 3 people, and you do little short improv games and get points. So think, whose line is it anyway?
Yeah, it's competitive improv.
Yeah, but the points don't matter, right? The points have nothing to do with anything. It's just a show, you're all part of the same troupe, like the same, kind of group, but you're just divided for each show. And it's essentially just
like wrestling.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just a foil to create some drama for the audience to enjoy on top of the improv games. So yeah, I did that for a year, got really into that, loved it. And, but always, in the back of my mind, it's like, well, I'm going to be a lawyer. So, this is fun. This is great. And I love doing this, but I got to make money, and that's doing law. So, when I got to law school, and as I found out at law school that really one of my first experiences doing stand-up was for a club at law school called Law Review. So there's the prestigious journal called Law Review, and then there's this kind of comedic club that a lot of law schools have called Law Review. So Law Review spelt REVUE to kind of play off of the prestigious Law Review, VIEW. Anyway, hilarious pun for those on the inside. And I decided to do stand-up. So a lot of kind of lawyer inside jokes for my law school class at one of these club presentations, and it was great. So I've essentially been chasing that high ever since. Fantastic. It was fantastic.
Your niche audience.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot of fun. So that was kind of my first real, stage time show as a stand-up. And so, my wife knew that I had this comedic kind of bug that had always been a hobby for me and an interest for me. but never really gave serious thought until we knew we were going to be moving to LA. And I mean, a big reason we looked at even going to LA is because we talked about, well, if I don't do law, what would I do? And, I was like, well, if I had my druthers, anything I could do, I would do comedy. And she was like, great, then let's do it. So that's how I guess the comedy bug sort of started. Then we came to LA and kind of got my feet wet in the open mic scene. Started getting to know some people and developing my own, comedic persona, and just been working on that really ever since.
That's cool. Your wife sounds like she's very supportive of what you're pursuing and your comedy pursuits and all that.
Yeah. It's been, I guess for me, it's been surprising, not in the sense of how supportive she is, but that she's been, I guess it's been about how supportive she is, but
you're seeing it play itself out.
Yeah. As far as it being something that she's, when I have a good show or when I do something, I'm like, oh, I was recognized for this, I got into this festival, or she's genuinely, proud and happy for me, as opposed to kind of being like, oh, that's sweet. You know what I mean? There's kind of supportive, and then there's like motivational supportive, and she's more on the motivational supportive side. So that's been great. It's been great. And coming from, a conservative kind of religious house, it's like my parents are still, I think, really uncomfortable with the fact that I am not earning a regular paycheck.
I bet.
Yeah. So, I find it a little bit interesting because both of my parents, as far as I can remember, worked. My mom has worked as a marriage family therapist basically my whole life. When I was really young, she was doing her master's and then her doctorate, but she's always been doing therapy stuff. And my dad's always been a professor. So both my parents worked all the time, but I think for both of them, me not having a regular paycheck, it makes them nervous. It makes them nervous for sure.
You find your way. You make it what works for your family doesn't work for one family. It's changing times. It's different times. It's crazy times.
Right. Exactly. The future is feminine, baby. So
maybe.
I'm just stepping out of the way. I'm getting out of the way early.
But I'm guessing you do a good job as a father. That probably helps with your wife being supportive of everything and it being a situation that's
right. I mean, Adam, when do you know you've been a good dad? I don't feel like I'm ever really going to know if I've been a good dad.
And the kids are still alive.
I mean,
that's how you know.
Yeah, that's what's funny. And my wife and I have talked about this so many times, and I have sort of a part of I guess my act, some jokes that I'll do about this, but it's such a well-documented dichotomy. The standard for a mom is so high and the standard for a dad is so low, So it's like a mom is not a great mom if all her kids are living at the end of the day. Whereas a dad did a pretty good job. Everybody's clean, fed, and alive. Wow. Dad of the year, but that's like bare minimum for mom. Moms have to make sure kids are learning 3 languages. Moms have to make sure kids are, participating in science and all the, what I mean? They've got to have all this stuff going.
The day-to-day minutia of life, not just Did you eat? Did your homework? Go to sleep.
Right, exactly. Dad is the essentials, I guess, at the at the finest of times. Yeah, I feel like moms are judged by their children. If a child, at least me growing up, is always like, kids got to learn how to play a musical instrument. They have to play a sport, and they got to be good at school, right? So dads, though, it's like, hey, if a dad shows up to an extracurricular activity, amazing. Amazing. So,
what are some of the biggest challenges of being a parent? And that's a general question, but
Yeah,
maybe
I
it's
mean,
something that happened yesterday jumps out at you.
well, for
Something went
me,
down.
yeah, for me, it's just patience. It's really just patience every day,
Right.
just like not, not trying, not losing my mind with my kids, not emotionally or physically abusing them anyway.
There you go.
That's the real challenge every day.
An honest man.
I mean, I think to take your question more seriously, the challenge that I've found with parenting is, and also parenting as a religious person, because my wife and I are both religious. We're raising our kids to be religious. And so but I guess I'll say we're doing that also knowing that there's a whole, uh, spectrum of viewpoints on what's right and what's wrong. And that, our kids, I don't want our kids to fall into the stereotype of holier than thou religious kids. I want them to understand that, some people out there are gay. Some people out there are, transgender. And it's not to us to judge them. You just need to love them and treat them with respect and trust that whatever that they are going through is not up to you. That's between them and God, and you just need to be nice, right? So I guess for me, and then dealing with their own like acceptance, right? Their own identity, making sure they feel loved and connected and all of that. I feel like that's also tough.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tough world out there, and I'm sure raising them here in LA versus in Utah, raising a family is definitely a night and day in terms of the challenges in the environment. You're saying it was sort of homogenous environment you grew up in terms of the
Yeah. I mean, I think that comes with both positives
people.
and negatives.
Sure.
My wife and I actually, when we were dating, talked a lot about how we did not want to raise a family in Utah. That was one of the things that, for both she and I were like, oh, well, this is great. This could actually work. Because there are some people, and some of them are my siblings, who are like, Utah or die, baby. This is it. This is where we need to be. There's a lot of comfort in growing up in a place where other people think and act the way you do. I felt like that also, though, bred, that's the positive side. The negative side is a lot of stereotype and, shunning of the
You're
other.
closed off. You're
Yeah.
just a little closed off from everyone, even if it's not in
Yeah.
a
Yeah, exactly.
proactive closed off. It's just a closed off existence.
Right. I mean, so for me growing up, I was pretty cognizant of, the religion that teaches love and respect everybody, but, don't hang out with the people who smoke because they're a bad influence. If that guy has a tattoo, he's not going to be a good person. There's that kind of stigma that's built up that I found hypocritical, and really off-putting. So for that reason, I wanted to raise my kids outside of Utah so they would know, if someone does X, Y, or Z, they're not a bad person. They're just choosing to live their life a little bit differently than you do. And that's okay. We should be okay with that.
No, that's good, man. You have the right attitude, I think.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But
You're
I
wrong,
think
Dad.
right. How dare
You don't
you?
know what you're talking about, Dad.
Right. But I think, there's also this idea of like, you can be, I don't know, I joke about this a lot where it's like, as a religious person, I know that I'm right and more righteous than everybody else. I don't have to go shouting about it though,
Sure.
Um, so, I guess that's the other aspect of raising kids is that it's like, I want them to be confident in what they feel is right and wrong and not be questioning that all the time, but also be open to other perspectives. And that's a difficult balance. So I
I'm
worry
working on
about
that
that.
every day, man.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm working on that myself.
right. We're all trying. So yeah. So we knew we wanted to raise a family outside of Utah. So for us, it's actually been really, really beneficial. our kids had some great exposure to other ideas in North Carolina, and it was a wonderful place to have some small kids. We found a little daycare out there that was great for our two older kids, and then our youngest was born, out here. So yeah, so we've loved it. I don't care what our kids think. We've loved it. It's been great.
Tell me more about like the comedy and making your way through the comedy scene in the last few years in LA. What are some of the highlights, lowlights, challenges? What sort of jumps out at you? And what have you learned?
Yeah, so I wanted to initially be a stand-up that then people would be like, oh man, he's hilarious, and then find out, oh, he's also religious. That's amazing, right? And I did that. I tried to do that for about 6 months when we first moved out here in the open mic scene. Try to just be, a normal guy doing comedy, crushing it. And then people found out, and that was
no jokes about religion or your identity.
No jokes about, none of that, right?
And just to confirm, you've been Mormon. You're the whole time. You didn't
right. My whole life. I've been.
Even though your sort of views on the world, especially Utah versus where you are now, maybe, and your outlook have sort of evolved or whatever. But
yeah. I mean, I guess. I don't feel like my viewpoints contradict anything the gospel teaches. I do think my viewpoints contradict the social, kind of construct that happens within Utah, right? The cultural stuff, I do feel like my mentality contradicts the cultural stuff about being
right. I was just going to use the word culture myself.
Yeah, but not necessarily the gospel stuff, Yeah. So I'm still true to the Lord, just not a lot of the people who follow him, I guess. Let's see. So I didn't joke about any of that when I first started, and was, really dedicated to that for like 6 months. And people did not remember me. People, I would talk to people multiple times. They'd be like, who are you? I'd be like, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. Wasn't getting, invited really to do other people's shows or anything like that. And then I just thought, I need to joke about myself more. I need to be honest about myself, and I can't dodge the religion question anymore. So I have to figure out how to do this. And went up. I decided, okay, I'm going to go to this spot called Fourth Wall Open Mic, and I'm going to do a set that's more religiously based, and we'll see how it goes. And I got up on stage. I don't know how familiar you are with the Fourth Wall or the slotted open mic scene. Have you heard comedians talk about the slotted?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't think it's the best experience, if I recall.
I mean, people have different viewpoints on it. It's a pay-to-play system. So you pay $5, you get your 5 minutes, and it's a limited audience. It's just the people performing, So, I think stage time is stage time, right? If you can get it, great. And if you have to pay to get it, then I guess you pay to get it. So in this room, though, who had joined this slotted mic, there was one guy that I'd known, and he's a great comedian. This guy named Michael Regilio. He is, though, avidly atheist. He makes no apologies about being atheist. His persona on stage is even a little bit atheist, It's great. He's hilarious. But I saw him perform, and I'd seen him perform a few times, and I thought, oh my gosh, the night that I'm going to do the religious stuff is going to be in front of this comedian that I respect and think is funny, but also openly dislikes religious kind of mentality. All right, well, there's no better time to do it, because if he's going to hate it, great. But if he likes it, then I know I'm onto something, right?
Right.
So So I go up, I do my set. It goes okay. I felt at least good about it. There were definitely, there are always things you could do better, right? But I was like, okay, I did it, and it seemed to go okay. And after that, Michael comes up to me and he goes, man, that was amazing. You need to work on that more. You really are onto something there. There are not many people that are positive religious comedians that are also funny. So if you can develop that, that'll be great. So you should keep doing that.
That's
So for
cool.
me, that was a huge turning point. And from then on, I've just been embracing this more religious persona, this kind of spiteful religious persona that's jealous of everybody else doing the non-religious stuff, but still trying to be true to my religion, you know? So, and then I started getting, recognized or noticed because people were like, oh, you're the Mormon guy, how many white male comedians are there? A million, but how many Mormon comedians are there? Not that many, not that many. So it certainly has become a shtick for me that I've enjoyed and that, gets me noticed more than I otherwise would be, I think.
It's all about just being true to yourself and being authentic, is it not?
Yeah, at least to an extent, right? At least to an extent. There's definitely things
That
about,
fits, yeah, but
yeah,
in terms of the
yeah, at
comedy
least,
context,
right,
yeah.
right. I think all comedy has to start with some truth for it to be relatable and funny. There's got to be some truth somewhere.
What kind of jokes were you doing before you started doing this stuff that was more like about you and about the religion? I'm guessing it just wasn't as personal because
No,
that's what appeals to me is the personal stuff that when people are most vulnerable and
yeah,
telling you
yeah,
really who they are and being funny and you can see the
yeah,
skill
no,
as a
I mean,
comedian too. But what
right.
kind of stuff were you trying to do
I mean,
the
the
earlier
one joke
days?
that I really remember is about apple juice. Talked about, there's lots of different kinds of grape juice. You have white grape juice, you have the red grape juice. But apples, there are also tons of apples in the store, but you don't see a bunch of apple, particular apple juices. You just see apple juice. So why don't they make, a gala juice? That sounds nice, classy. They could have a jazz juice. Their only problem would be granny. So that was one of the first non-religious jokes I'd tell, right? Because
Yeah,
granny juice, hilarious, right?
I think that's pretty good.
But yeah, it's
Maybe
not as relatable. It's not
put that in.
bad.
You put that in the middle of your Mormon bit. Squeeze
Yeah,
it in there.
yeah. I mean, I could find a way to relate it, because we don't drink, so we have to find, the connoisseurs. We still have a connoisseur mentality. Anyway,
Jazz juice.
goodness, yeah, jazz juice, baby. So it was jokes like that. Things that I'm honestly at this point, I'm like, oh boy, how embarrassing. How embarrassing.
Yeah.
Um,
You wanted to do like Seinfeld stuff. Maybe
well,
a
I mean,
little
he
bit.
was my first real comedian idol was Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah. Love Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, I remember back in the day when people admitted to liking Bill Cosby, loved the Cosby Show,
Sure.
watched Bill Cosby as himself, that stand-up special, and thought it was amazing, But Jerry Seinfeld was really the first comedian that I was like, okay, this, because I didn't find out really about Cosby being a stand-up until after I'd been introduced to Seinfeld anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, and then you find out about people like Kathleen Madigan, who's also, she deals with some religious stuff in a positive way. And then there's Ricky Gervais, who deals with religion in a very negative way, and David Cross, who does the same, and they're both hilarious.
Jim
Um,
Gaffigan is Catholic and religious, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
what's his name? Pete
Pete Holmes raised religious, and worked on the Christian comedy circuit for a while, and then got divorced, and that really shook up, I think, his religious outlook. I don't know that he
gotcha.
truly abandoned his faith, but he's definitely not as, religiously focused as he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever met him? If you met him, would you be like, you need to get more? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, I'd just be like,
Yeah.
how have you gotten where you are, Pete? I want to know. I want to know right now.
Yeah.
The person I really want to talk to is Ryan Hamilton, because he is, he's got a Netflix special. He's opened for Jerry Seinfeld repeatedly in New York, and he's a member of my faith. I want to know, Ryan, how are you making this work? How did you do this?
Yeah.
Because he's hilarious.
Yeah, is that what your sort of hopes, dreams, goals, plans are? Is just to continue to do comedy, and whether it's tour, like, can you tour with a family, or is it more about the special
I mean,
or
Jim Gaffigan will tour with his family. I think it's
right?
definitely possible.
Sure.
Um, Yeah, I mean, what's my dream? I guess my dream is, the Netflix special, man. The Netflix special, a TV deal, and to tour a little bit when I want to. That's absolutely, that's the dream. I
Have
mean, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask if you've done any acting gigs, jobs, pursuits, commercials. Do you have headshots? Do you have your agents for sending you out on auditions? Like, is any of that
Right.
part of your life too?
I mean, I think 2020, man, that was going to be the year. It was going to be the
It was
year.
taken away from you.
I was going to break out. I have an agent now that's been great, but they signed me during COVID, sort of with the understanding of like, we have certain things that we want our talent to do that you can't do, or that would be useless for you to pay for and do right now. So we'll sign you, but we'll kind of all take it easy until this is over, and then we'll work really hard for you and hope you work really hard for us too. So that's been a fine relationship. But yeah, I'd love to get into acting. I think the days of focusing on one thing are kind of gone. I think
Right.
you have to be ready, willing, and able. If you want to just focus on stand up, that's great. But I think my dream is to do a little bit of what Bill Burr has done, which is focus on stand up, but be open to all of this other stuff. So yeah, I'd love to do acting. I'd love to, I've got some writing projects that I've been working on over the quarantine, since stand up, as far as live performances, have really dwindled. So yeah, but yeah, I'm open to it. I'm open to all of it, man. Anything at all. But yeah, stand up for sure is the first love, and then acting would be a second focus.
Does your wife ever have any notes or suggestions for you as far as your writing and your stand-up? You said she's mostly a supportive cheerleader
Right.
and genuine in the sense that she does really legitimately love to, celebrate your successes with you. But does she
Yeah.
ever have notes?
Oh, all the time. Every wife has notes about everything. Yeah. My wife has notes all the time. All the time. So there are some that I'll take, and I try to give her credit when it's due. And there are some where I'm like, well, I don't think that's that funny. I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't think I'm going to do that way. But yeah, she definitely has notes. She definitely has ideas of what would be funny. She doesn't like watching me perform because she gets too anxious. She gets too nervous for me, even though she's seen me do well. She's also seen me do really poorly. So
Sure.
the trauma of me doing poorly is almost too much for her. So she likes it. It's sort of like, I don't know, any adrenaline rush, she likes it, but only to a point.
Right. But so she probably comes out to shows. I mean, you guys are quite busy, I'm guessing, as well with the
Yeah,
family. But she probably
right,
sounds like she
right.
comes out periodically to a big show or
Yeah,
once in
she'll
a
come out to the
while.
big shows. Yeah, we'll get a babysitter. She'll come out to the big shows, and usually those go fairly well, and she enjoys that after the fact. She likes it after the fact.
Yeah.
While I'm on stage, she's a little too nervous about everything.
Well,
So
that means she loves you
she
and
does.
cares. That's
Yeah,
what that means. Is that
that
not what
is.
that means?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what that means. Which is really sweet, So it's great. It's great.
She's nervous so you don't have to be
Yeah,
for the both of
yeah,
you.
right. Although, I have to kind of separate her out from the audience in my mind and just be like, okay, while I'm up here, nothing I do is going to please her because she's already so nervous. I just have to focus on everybody else and hope this goes for the best.
Do you get
Um,
nervous before you on stage or any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I get nervous performing in front of friends and family because, you're vulnerable in a way that is very personal and also not very personal on stage.
It's
Like,
weird. It's a little weird.
yeah, I mean, I guess what I mean by that is there are aspects of my personality that are very true when I perform. But then there are aspects of the jokes where it's like, well, no, that part is just a joke. This part here, that part is true. This part is a joke, though. So don't get
Yeah.
confused. And so I worry about that with family and friends. They'll be like, well, which part were you serious about?
It makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I could
you know
follow
but
that.
yeah, there's always I'm sharper when I'm a little bit nervous. So it's good. For me, I think it's good to be a little bit nervous, a little bit excited, a little bit worked up,
I could
before
see you
going up
making
on stage.
that kind of energy work for you.
Yeah, I
A little
think
bit.
it can help. There have been a couple times when I've been too nervous, and timing is off when you're super nervous. At least for me, that's the way it goes. And that energy, that tempo can really kill a set. So, but a little bit of nervous energy, I feel like kind of helps me,
Interesting.
because what I'm presenting, my persona is a little bit nervous, but unapologetic about the religious side. When I'm joking about the religious stuff, I feel like I try to toe a little bit of a line or walk a line of being confident but also apologetic at the same time.
Yeah.
So sometimes the nervous energy can help. Sometimes it can help, I guess, in small doses.
I follow, my friend. Well, I
Yeah,
definitely appreciate your time. It's been a lot of fun. Why don't you tell people where they could find you, follow you, or if there's anything else you wanted to mention
sure.
that's worth mentioning, I'll kind of give you the floor, let you
Yeah,
do
I
your
appreciate it.
thing.
Well,
And
I mean, first of all, thank you, Adam. This is such a
oh,
fun
thank you.
podcast, and what a great idea! Highlight the positives of people around us. It's great.
I'm trying, man.
Yeah, man, we all need positivity in this time more than
We
ever.
do. It's not just I mean, we've always really needed it, but especially now for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So people can find me on Instagram. I'm at only Seth Lawrence on Instagram. I also do a podcast called Disorganized Religion, where I talk to comedians about their start in comedy and then their thoughts on religion and spirituality. And some of them hate it, and that's great. We have great discussions. So it's very fun. Those are the two places where you can find me the most as far as upcoming events and stuff like that. Instagram. If you want to hear religious discussion and jokes, go to Disorganized Religion podcast.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah,
Well, thanks again. It's been fun. I look forward to seeing you perform again. Hopefully soon.
yeah,
Outdoors, indoors, whatever. We'll see where the world goes. But
right,
thanks
right.
again, man.
Tomorrow's election day, baby. We'll see what
That's
happens.
right. Things. It'll be interesting. This will be released after that. So,
Right. Well, we'll know who do you think will have won? Biden? I'm pretty sure Biden
um,
will win, but we might not know. We might
Al
not know.
Gore. I think Al Gore has a chance this year.
Yeah, that'd be great. Wouldn't that be great? Oh my gosh.
I was having an acid flashback. On that note,
Adam, thank you so much, man. This has been a lot of fun.
you got it. Have a good night, my friend.
All right, you too, bud.
Later. So there you have it. My conversation with Seth Lawrence. That was a lot of fun. I definitely, again, thank him for his time, and I'm glad he became a comedian and not a lawyer. That would have been boring. Anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewellovepodcast.com. And I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks as always. And let's talk soon. Peace.